Who's this? Oh, you're an entrepreneur? Oh, you're a real estate investor. Oh, you're trying to learn from those who did it. Well, come into the lab then. Put your white coat on, gloves on, notepad, and let's build, y'all. Real estate experiment. What is happening, y'all? Today we have Rod Khleif join us, and Rod, I couldn't even give you a better intro than you can yourself. And I'd like to, if you guys don't know Rod, obviously he's what I really enjoy about Rod is not only is he an investor and an entrepreneur, which we definitely want to hear about, but he's definitely a people's person, and he's always talking about the personal development aspect and the psychology and the goal setting, and we definitely want to hear a little bit more about him. Also the host of the Lifetime Cash Flow Through Real Estate Investing podcast. Make sure you guys check that out. We'll have that in the show notes. But Rod, we've heard lots about you. I've heard lots about you. I'm stoked to have you on the show. You want to maybe tell the people the beginning of who was Rod Khleif before, and then who is Rod Khleif now, and kind of tell us a little bit about your background there.
Sure. So, you just told me you're going to Amsterdam here tomorrow. I was born in Holland, and I immigrated when I was 6 years old. And we ended up in Denver, Colorado. Didn't have much. In fact, I ended up wearing clothes from the Goodwill and the Salvation Army all the way through junior high school until I could get a job and buy my own clothes. We ate expired food because that's all my mom could afford, powdered milk because she thought milk was healthy at the time. So we struggled, but, I'm sure there are people that listen to your show that had it harder than we did. I just knew I wanted more. And my mom had an incredible work ethic. So what she did was she babysat kids in our home so we'd have enough money to eat and do some of the other things we wanted to do. And with her babysitting money, when I was about 14, she bought the house across the street from us for approximately $30,000. Now, when I was 17, about to graduate from high school, she told me it had gone up $20,000 in her sleep, just in appreciation. I'm like, what? I'm getting into real estate. I mean, I was hell bent. I was going to go to college. Nope, no college. I'm going straight to real estate. So I got my real estate broker's license right when I turned 18, which you could do with education back then. Now you need experience. They got smart, and you have to have some years of experience. But I was a broker right when I turned 18, and I was going to be rich in real estate. Well, my first year in real estate, I maybe made $8,000 to $10,000. My second year, I think I might have made up to $12,000. But my third year, I made well over $100,000. And so, what happened between year 2 and year 3, Ruben? Well, and I get asked that a lot. What happened, I was able to 10X my income because I learned about mindset and psychology. Now, yes, I teach real estate. I teach multifamily real estate to thousands of people a year, coaching. I've got live events. I've got my podcast, which is about to hit 7 million downloads. Right. I'm in a lot of ears, and, but everybody wants to learn the vehicle. Like in your case, it's real estate. In my case, it's real estate. It could be entrepreneurship, could be anything, to make that, to get that financial success. But I'm here to tell you what I discovered back then when I was almost 21 was 80 to 90% of your success in anything is your psychology or your mindset.
Yes, sir.
And so let me fast forward to today. I've owned over 2,000 houses that I rented long-term. I've owned multiple apartment complexes in 3 states. In the last 8 months, we've bought 1,000 doors in 5 states. But back in, so in 2006, I had 800 houses. I had multiple apartment complexes, and my net worth went up $17 million while I slept.
Wow.
And there's a punchline though. But I will tell you that when that happens to someone, they could have a tendency to get a big head. Well, I thought I was a real estate freaking god. Okay. I couldn't fit my head through a double door, and, I thought I could do no wrong. And, when that happens, God or the universe or whatever you believe will give you a smackdown. Yeah. Well, I got the smackdown, and that was 2008. I lost everything. I lost that 17 million and a whole lot more. I call it a seminar. It's only a failure if you don't learn or you don't get back up and get going again. But I lost $50 million, and very, very painful. But if you'd like, Ruben, I don't know where you want to take this conversation, but I could talk about what it took to get to have 50 million to lose in the first place, and then
Yeah.
what it took to get back to the success that I enjoy today. I'm happy to talk about that.
Yeah. So I really like, Rod, how you said it's a seminar, and I've heard you say that before, and I appreciate it, because here we call it the lab, right? The experiments go well, experiments go wrong, but it's about what you do after. So I'd love to hear a little bit more as that 50 million. First of all, how you know, as we would call the experiment, how was that initial experiment getting into it? Did you use your license to sell real estate and then get into your first deal? You want to talk about that, and then we'll kind of get to how you got to that peak and then fell off and recovered. So take us through that first deal, because I know there's a lot of us here who are listening, and they're just so fired, ready to go. But that initial momentum build.
No, I'm happy to talk about the first deal. It was anticlimactic. It was about 20 grand. It was a piece of crap in Denver.
Mm-hmm.
I ended up buying 500 houses in Denver at one time, but
single family.
I think I might even put it on a credit card. Back then you could buy houses and rent them for 2% of what you paid. So that means I could have rented that place for $400 a month.
That's unbelievable.
And so, that formula works anywhere, anytime, anyhow. It just works.
1%.
And so, like I said, I ended up buying 500 houses in Denver, which I rented out long-term, bought some apartments as well. But, as far as, again, I mean, we can drill down on the mechanics if you like. I'm here to tell you that's 10 to 20% of what it takes to be a success in real estate. The 80 to 90% is the ability to actually push through your limiting beliefs, to push through fear, to get uncomfortable. Many people are comfortable, and the comfort zone's a warm place, but not a damn thing grows there.
Yeah.
So, I bought a lot of properties using all sorts of creative financing. I used hard money. I got money from banks. I bought a lot of foreclosures. I did what other people weren't willing to do. Anytime you're willing to do what other people aren't willing to do, you'll be a success. I knocked on the doors of people that were in foreclosure and said, hey, let me list your house, or let me buy it from you if it's not going to sell. And I did that for almost a decade. Every night I was out knocking on doors, but it worked. And so, but really what happened and the big, what's the word I'm looking for? Catalyst or shift was when I discovered it was all mindset.
Yeah. Okay. And so that mindset, is that a mindset that you, I'm sure, had to overcome? So maybe let's piggyback on that. So 50 million in losses. I know that there's a link somehow there. Did that have anything to do with single family, multifamily? I know there was
Sure. So how did I lose the money? How did I lose it? Yeah. So the reason that I crashed and burned, I was at a 30% loan to value, Ruben, okay, in 2006, 30%. 2006, 2007. So that means, for those of you who don't know what that means I only owed 30 cents on every dollar. Okay. And here's a great indicator of what might've happened. I actually went upside down. That's how far it crashed here. So my portfolio crashed in value more than 70%. Okay. So that's number one. But what really killed me was I had 800 houses, and they were spread out from 2 hours south of me to 2 hours north of me and everywhere in between. I had multiple apartment complexes as well. Now, and the title of my podcast is Lifetime Cash Flow. And what it was wrong with what I was doing was I was focused on value, not cash flow. For example, my single family portfolio, a lot of it was along the coast where I had to have extra wind insurance or flood insurance, so which impacts cash flow.
Yes. But
the big thing that killed me was if I had a maintenance issue at one of my apartment complexes here, then I could send a maintenance guy, and because everything's the same, all the plumbing's the same, the appliances the same, the HVAC is the same, we could stockpile parts. And so they could go in there in 30 minutes to an hour, be in and out and fix something. Well, if they had to go to one of my houses that was, let's say, generously only an hour away, there's 2 hours round trip just to get there, but then they'd get there and everything's different. So they'd have to analyze what was wrong. Then they'd have to go find a Home Depot or a Lowe's where we had an account and buy the material, which could be another hour, 2 hours round trip.
Sure.
And, if you get into any kind of a repair, particularly if everything's different, you'll find if you've ever fixed anything that you typically end up going back to the hardware store more than once because you need something as you dig into it. Well, so what took an hour max at one of my apartment complexes would take all day at one of my houses. And you multiply that times 800. Then the last nail in the coffin was, when you're, and this ties to when you're evaluating a market, it's very, very important to look at the demographic that's going to rent your property and make sure that they have contraction resistant employers or contraction resistant employment. Well, many of my properties were rented to contractors, jobbers, like plumbers, electricians, roofers, framers, drywallers, and painters. And if those of you that went through 2008, those of you that were there know that all of that fell off a cliff. It was like a light switch went off. There was nothing being built and nothing being remodeled. So those people didn't have work. So it was just like the perfect storm. So that's how I lost it all. I just couldn't keep it together. But what was interesting, and the reason that I started my podcast was to get this message out there. And that is, throughout all that, my multifamily did just fine. If I had not cross-collateralized my apartment complexes with big packages of houses, I still own them.
Yeah.
So that was the message. If you're going to buy and hold, for God's sakes, do something besides single family. It's just, it's easier to scale. It's easier to manage, and it's safer, frankly. If you've got a house and it's vacant, you're 100% vacant. Where if you've got a fourplex and you've got one of the units empty, you're only 25% vacant, and chances are you're probably still close to cash flowing. So, I'm a big advocate for doing multifamily if you're buying and holding.
Okay. So interesting you say that, because I see a lot of investors and end up transitioning into multifamily for that
from
reason.
Single. Yeah.
And it makes sense, obviously, from a scalable perspective. But I guess initially, and you hear this a lot and you might know where I'm going with this, but what is the best advice for someone who's looking to get that experience? Should they wait, build a business, and have enough, or build a business? I'm thinking as an entrepreneur, but some people might have a W-2. That's fine. Should they wait and stack up and get into multifamily right away, or go through the experience that you went through?
No, God, no. What? Why?
Right.
Okay. Now I will tell you, people have a courage muscle.
Yeah.
I had Grant Cardone on my show, and he and I almost kind of got into it a little bit.
Yeah,
actually,
and that's where I was going with that, because Grant.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah. Well, let's talk about that.
Let's talk about that, right?
We had I took questions from listeners, and one of the questions was from a vet, and the vet said, should I use my VA to buy a fourplex? And he said, no, buy a 16 unit. And I'm like, Grant, come on, dude. That's zero down financing. And people have a courage muscle. They're not all Grant Cardone. They go after, 100, 200, 400 unit complexes. So guys, if you're listening, just start. It doesn't matter where you start. And I will tell you, in the hundreds of interviews that I've done, there's a common theme when I ask the question, if you told your 20-year-old self, something, with what you know now, what would you do different? The answer is almost always go bigger, faster. Okay. But many of these people that I interview that have had thousands of doors or have thousands of doors started with houses too.
Right. So, hindsight 2020.
But my point is, start. Just, now you can house hack a fourplex, live in one of the units. Fantastic way to start, or a duplex, triplex. Fantastic way to start. But just start. And if it means you start with a house, start with a darn house. Okay, it's fine. But you're going to find that you're going to get further, faster, easier with multifamily. And here's why. Multifamily is a team sport. So I just did a Facebook Live on this today about multifamily financing. So there are three things that you have to satisfy when you borrow money for a commercial multifamily. Commercial meaning anything over 5 units. 2 to 4 units is residential multifamily. So anything over 5 units commercial. And they're going to look at the property's ability to service the debt and the team. So if you don't have any money, but you've got a friend that does, and you've got another one that's got some experience, they're going to look for 3 things. One, they're going to look for net worth equal to the loan amount. 2, they're going to look for liquidity after you close on the property equal to 10% of the loan amount. And 3rd, they're going to look for some experience. But what's great, because this business is a team sport, is you can find all that in one person or 2 people, put that together, put the deal together, and end up owning a piece of a deal, with little or nothing in it. And so, that's why we love multifamily. And again, I bought 2,000 houses, Ruben, and I'm telling you, don't do it. Okay. So I hope that has a little bit of credibility, and I rented them out long-term. I mean, I had 500 houses in Denver I rented out. I had 200 in Memphis, 1,400 here in Florida. And so I'm telling you, don't do it. It's much, much easier to do it with multifamily.
Excellent. Yeah, and definitely again, check out some of the episodes, because I know you go into depth on this and we don't have all day to go in it, and I know you have a lot of tools.
Well, no,
But
I'd really love to talk about
yeah.
mindset. If you don't mind
Yeah, no,
going
no.
there,
I,
I really
I
would.
I love that, and that's
Okay.
exactly what I'm shifting to, because I, I think it takes. There's so many limiting beliefs out there, right? That you
Sure.
bring onto yourself, and
Sure. We have childhood experiences where,
right.
we place some emotional weight on them,
Mhm.
and then our brain thinks they're factual
Exactly.
in reality, 99% of them aren't. And there's a reason that the acronym is BS for belief systems, because most of them truly are BS. Okay. And so, our weight, we had an emotional experience that our mind deemed, factual, and like mine was, I didn't feel like I was good enough. And I used to ask myself the question, how can I show them I'm good enough?
Mhm.
Which presupposed what? That I wasn't.
Yeah.
And so many people have that.
So what? And let's get into it, because I love talking about this. And it's the root of personal development. It's so engraved in our lives. So how do I check myself, Rod? If I'm listening to this podcast
Sure.
and say, okay, well, I feel like I'm pretty leveled, or I feel like I'm lacking confidence. What should be some of the
Well,
questions,
I'll tell you what you have to do.
mindsets?
It's
Yeah.
really very simple.
Yeah.
Okay. You've got to drag it into the daylight. Okay.
Okay.
It was your juvenile childhood mind that came up with these limiting beliefs.
Mm.
You've got to look at it, drag it into the daylight. And the operative word here is consciously. You got to bring it into the daylight consciously. Look at it with your adult rational mind,
Mm-hmm.
and realize that's just BS. I'm an awesome person. I'm a loving person. I'm a giving person. I'm an amazing person. I'm a gift from God. And just bring rational thought into it, but you got to do it consciously. If you let it slip by, it'll stay there. If you bring it into the daylight and shine your adult spotlight on it, you'll start to burn it up. And at some point, it'll be gone. I used to, that's what I had to do. I had to realize that there's nobody out there that is better than me. I mean, globally. I don't mean that in an egotistical
Yeah.
way. I mean that in a hey, you're not better than me, and I'm not better than you kind of way.
Yeah.
Okay. And frankly, people don't care that much. Honestly, I was just telling my son this at lunch today, because he's a little bit of an introvert and a little bit insecure. And I said, people don't care that much. You're going to learn that as you get older,
Mm-hmm.
that they're more interested in themselves. So, but the key, in answer to your question, is to bring it into the daylight.
So it's interesting you say that, because I think another good book for that is like that. I don't know if you've ever read The Subtle Art of Not Giving an F by Mark.
Yeah, of course. It's the truth.
And
It's the truth.
I think we get hung up, just like any deal, any uh, uh, occurrence, or any challenge. Even Mark Cuban says all you got to do is get it right once, right? And I think we just beat ourselves
But you got to
over.
take action. You actually have to do it. And
Yeah.
see, that's the sad thing is, I do boot camps. I do them 3 times a year. They're 3 days, just me for 3 days teaching. Yeah. But most people will go to one of those events, and 90%, this is the sad reality, 90% never do anything with it.
I know.
Not on my watch, brother. Okay.
Know.
I mean, I spend probably
you're planting 30, the seed. You're doing
30 to 40% of the time on pushing through fear, mindset, goal setting, establishing your ideal vision for yourself. All these things are going to pull you, that you need the fuel to actually take action. That's the key here.
So Rod, perfect segue, because I'm currently reading, and I would literally advise everybody read this. It's Willpower Doesn't Work. I don't know if you recently heard of it.
No, that sounds good. I'll get it myself.
Yeah, Willpower Doesn't Work. And it's just so fascinating, because it's talking about, and I'm just looking at it here so I don't butcher the author. It's in my Audible. But it's talking about maybe what you may want to get into. What is it? It's by Benjamin Hardy. What is it that one must do to take information to action right away? I think there's human nature to protect yourself from there's a resistance to change. And so if you know that, and if our audience knows that, and myself, I know that, the book is talking about changing your environment. Do you have any other advice, whether it's kind of teaming up with someone to hold you accountable, getting a coach? What are some good insights?
Well, certainly those two things, a rising tide lifts all ships. Get around people that want more. I've got a Facebook group that's got 30,000 investors in it. Join that group if you want. Just multifamilycommunity.com is a direct link to that group. But the point is, you want to be around people that want more, that are going to hold you to a higher standard. Yeah. It's so easy to hang out with people that make you feel good.
Oh yeah.
But you want to be around people that want more, because if you're around people that are fearful, and family could come to play here. If you're around people that are fearful, that you know what they're going to do is they're going to hold you down. They'll pull you back because they love you and they're afraid of losing you. But I'm here to tell you that they will keep you from your dreams. So who you surround yourself with is who you become. Choose wisely. Okay. Yeah. And you know, I'm a member of several masterminds. I host my own mastermind because I'm elevating myself. I just joined a mastermind that's got all the biggest flippers and wholesalers on the planet in it. It's called Collective Genius. And I joined because, you know, those guys are the best in the world at systems. You know, they do 30 to 500 houses a year. I mean, these are the best in the world at what they do. And so, you know, I'm all about systems and procedures as well. And a lot of those things in the single family space carry over to the multifamily space. So I joined, and I've got my own multifamily mastermind that I host, got about 5 billion in assets in it, but I wanted to make it better. So I'm studying what they do. So the point is, yes, you want to surround yourself with people that want more. That's number one. Number two, absolutely get a coach or mentor. No question. We do it, but there are lots of people out there that do it that are good. Find maybe somebody in your local environment. Check us out if you want. We do a really nice job, but you know, get someone looking over your shoulder, someone that, and then make sure you've got some accountability. And so if you put your own little mastermind together, 4 or 5 people, you know, in my coaching program, they're called my warriors, lots of little accountability groups in there. They hold each other accountable, make sure that they take action. You know, you want people that are going to come up to you and say, hey, what are you up to? What are you doing right now? Not people, oh, you're doing that. That sounds scary. Oh, ooh, you could lose your money. You know, you don't want those people. You want the people that are going to motivate you and inspire you to take action. People that think what you think is hard is easy. That's who you need to be around.
It's amazing because it sounds like it's a balance, Rod, of stretching yourself to being in an environment where people are doing, you know, 10x what you're doing, so your mind is stretching, but at the same time being conscious enough to know that they're not any better than me, but I need to get to that level. And
listen, you can't allow yourself to be intimidated. Number one, you need to be inspired. Okay, if you're intimidated by that, then you need to look in the mirror at your own insecurities and your own fears, and be honest with yourself, and just really start looking in the mirror, not in a judgmental way, but in a self-actualization way. Like Socrates said, a life unexamined is a life not worth living. Look in the mirror and explore that. But you want to be the person that gets inspired by those people, that gets motivated by those people. Might be a little bit intimidated because they're doing better than you, but that's okay. And we're always a little intimidated when we're exploring something new. But the point is, when you push through that fear, the more action you take, the more the fear diminishes. The less action you take, the fear actually grows. So you got to take action. Yeah. And that's what I harp on at my events. You know, that life of your dreams is on the other side of comfort, and it's on the other side of massive action.
Yeah. Excellent. So that's great. So again, building on that, just it sounds like you have a resourceful amount of places where you tap into this, you know, personal development, etc., that you've been growing with. So I'm curious, what's the
let me tell you the number one way.
Yeah.
Okay. And I teach this at my events. And if you humor me, I'll take your students, your listeners through it. It'll just take a couple minutes.
Yeah.
But I teach this at my events. I also teach it to my coaching students, but it's a goal setting process, but unlike one you've probably heard before. Okay, so
I'd love to hear,
give me a few minutes, I'll run through it.
I love it.
Because to get what you want, you have to know what the heck you want with incredible clarity. Clarity is power. Okay. So what if you're listening, if you can take a couple notes, you'll be glad you did. So find an hour when you have a lot of energy. Don't do it after a big meal. Make sure you're well hydrated, and sit down and write down everything you could ever possibly want in life, okay? All the stuff, the houses, the boats, the cars, the jet skis, the planes, the motorcycles, all the stuff. Where do you want houses? What countries do you want them in? You know, what kind of vehicles do you want? So write all the stuff down, and don't limit yourself. People place limits on themselves, and there truly are no limits. The only limits are the ones we put on ourselves. Yeah. So take the lid off your brain. Imagine if you write it down, you'll get it, which is not outside the realm of reality. So if you want a private island or a jet or a yacht, write it down, okay, whatever it is. And write down how much money you want in the bank in, say, 3 years, how much money you want in the bank in 10 years. Write down how much cash flow you want from your real estate endeavors in 3 years, 10 years. And then once you can't think of another thing, Write down what you're going to do for other people, and maybe in your family. About my parents a house, bought them a car, took them on cruises. Think about who you want to do things for as well, and write that down. Write down all the things you want to do. Like I jumped out of a perfectly good airplane a couple months ago. Won't do it again, but I did it. Write down what you want to do. Write a good book, climb a mountain, whatever it is. Learn a foreign language. Write it down. And again, write down who you want to help, even if it's not just family. Maybe you want to do something in your community, help elderly, help children, help animals, help the environment, whatever it is, write it down. Okay. And then also write down what you want to learn. If you want to learn something, I'm going to learn how to play the drums. In my compound here, one of my buildings has a media center, and there's my drum set there my wife bought me, and I don't even know what end of the stick to use yet, but I'm going to learn how to play those drums. I'm going to learn how to fly helicopters too. So those are things I want to learn. What do you want to learn? Write it down. So everything you want to do, be, or have, help, and all of that, write it down. When you can't think of another thing, the next step is you need to put a time limit on each goal. So you're going to put how many years it's going to take you to achieve it. Put a 1, a 3, a 5, a 10, or even a 20 by each goal. Okay. And make sure it's measurable. It can't be, I'm going to lose some weight. It's going to be, I'm going to lose 10 pounds by January 1st and feel freaking great about it. That's measurable. Okay. But put a time limit on each goal. Now, when you're putting the number by each goal, remember one thing. As human beings, we will overestimate what we can do in a year and massively underestimate what we can do in a decade or 20 years. I'll give you an example. When I was 18, I lived in Denver, and I knew I wanted to live on the beach. There's no beach in Denver. But I knew I was going to live on the beach. 20 years later, I ended up building a 10,000 square foot, $8 million home on the beach. I owned the beach on one side, it was a Gulf to Bay. So it sliced through an island. On the backside, I had my boat lifts. And I mean, it was unthinkable when I was 18, but I did it. Okay. Because I took the lid off my brain. Now, by writing your goals down, guys, what it does is it triggers something in your brain called your reticular activating system.
That's right, RAS. Yep.
Right. So what that does is it's your brain's filter as to what it thinks is most important to you. And probably the best example of it in action is when you first buy a car. You don't really notice them that much, but then you buy it and you see them everywhere. They were there before. Your brain is just now noticing them. Yeah. Same thing applies to your goals. And so, like I said, when I thought I was going to live on the beach, I had pictures of palm trees and I visualized that. My 18-year-old brain had a hard time wrapping its head around it, but it made it happen because of my thought process. Now, once you've got a number on each goal, there's just a couple more steps. Write down your number one goal. I mean that goal that if you got it, the clouds would part. It'd be like, oh my God, I can't believe I got that. That goal, write that down. Now, if there's 2 or 3 that are equally exciting, just pick one. It won't matter for what we're going to do next. But then I also want you to pick your top 3 one-year goals. So you're picking 4 goals and you're going to put them on another piece of paper and leave some room in between them. Okay, so your number 1 goal and your top 3 one-year goals. Now, I will tell you, most people don't even get this far. You're already had a 99.9% of the planet by doing this. Most people spend more time planning Christmas or a birthday than they do designing their lives. Yeah. You're designing your life right now. Okay, so you've got these 4 goals on a separate sheet of paper. You need to write down a paragraph for each one, why it's an absolute freaking must to achieve that goal. Not a should, not I'm thinking about it, but an absolute must. And you want to use emotionally charged words like incredible, amazing, magnificent. Use emotional words are very, very powerful. Use them so that, I can show my family what amazing success looks like. So I can show my spouse, what it's like to be free. So I can show my children what it takes to be a success. So we can go do whatever we want, wherever we want, whenever we want, with whoever we want.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, write it down. So use emotionally charged words and write down why it's an absolute must for you to get that goal. Because this is the fuel. This is what pushes you through those limiting beliefs and pushes you out of comfort to take action. Okay? But then there's one little more step. I want you to write down some pain if you don't achieve the goal. And make it painful. And here's why, because as human beings, we'll do more to avoid pain than gain pleasure. So use it as fuel so that I don't feel like a failure. So I don't live a life of regret. So I don't fail my children. I don't fail my spouse. Use that, because again, this is what gets you up early in the morning, keeps you up late at night, has you work on a weekend to get your dreams, to get your goals. This is the stuff that does it. It's the why. It's the why that'll drive you. The goal is important, but the why is much more important. So write down the positive and negative reasons why. And I'll tell you, there was a nurse in Australia, Ruben, that counseled hospice patients, and she asked them if they had any regrets about their lives. And she even wrote a book about this. Her name is Bronnie Ware, and the book was The 5 Regrets of Dying.
Oh, wow.
The top regret, you want to know what the number one regret was? Not living my own life, living what someone else expected of me and not living up to my potential. We don't want any freaking regrets, my friends. So use the whys to push through it. Now, there's one more step, okay? Once you've got the whys done, you've got to associate with these goals as much as you can. Like if you looked around my office here now, you'd see the pictures of the things that matter to me now. But let me give you some examples. If you humor me, it's going to take another minute to talk about visualization.
Please.
Okay. All right. So I want to give you some examples of how I used it. Didn't even know what I was doing until the movie The Secret came out. When the movie The Secret came out, I'm like, holy shit, that's what I've done for 20 years. I couldn't believe it. But here's some examples that I think might inspire your listeners. So when I was 18, I got my broker's license, remember, and I'm going to be a real estate broker. I thought I was just going to, sell people houses. So I had to have a 4-door car. And I got this 4-door Ford Granada, bench seats, ugliest freaking thing you ever saw in your life. But I had to have a 4-door car to sell real estate, okay? Well, I worked with a guy that had 2 Corvettes, and he let me drive one. And that's another important tip. If there's something that you want, experience it as much as you can. Test drive the car. Go to an open house of a house like you want to live in. Go experience as much as you can. But he let me drive it, and I'm like, oh my God, I got to have this. So I got a picture out of a magazine of a Corvette, because this was before you could spell internet. I mean, no one had thought of the internet yet. So I got a picture out of a magazine, and I taped that, not kidding, to the visor of my Granada. So every time I got in the car, I looked up, it was right there. Within a year or two, I had a beautiful red Corvette. Now, I'll give you a couple more examples, and they may sound like I'm bragging, and I'm not. In fact, these things don't interest me anymore, but they're great for illustrative purposes, so 100%. Stick with me. Yep. So back then, it's probably before you were born, Ruben, there was a TV show called Magnum P.I., and the actor's name was Tom Selleck, okay? And he was a detective, but he drove this Ferrari 308. And I thought that was the coolest freaking thing I'd ever seen. So I got a picture of that actual car, put it on the visor of my Corvette. Within a couple of years, I got a Maserati look just like it. Yeah. Last example, car example again. So I'm the guy that always wanted a Lamborghini. I mean, I had the posters in my room of the Lamborghini Countach and the bikini girls and the soap in the water, all that. Yeah, I had all that. And what's funny is my son, who I just had lunch with today, is now 24, but back when he was 9 years old, he collected models of exotic cars, and he had a model of the exact same color and style Lamborghini that I ended up getting. Now, pictures work, guys. I'm going to show you something, and you guys listen on iTunes can't see this, but when he puts this on YouTube, you'll be able to see it. But I've got a planner here. I'm a digital dinosaur a little bit. I use a paper planner. It's on today. Yeah. And in the back of this thing, I've got pictures that have been in here for 20 years, okay? Wow. They're plastic, they're dog-eared. The first pictures are the pictures of my children when they're very young. They're my gratitude pictures. Yes. Everything starts with gratitude, guys. So make sure you have gratitude pictures. If you do vision boards, do one that's just for gratitude. I've got one right behind me here that's just for gratitude. So these are pictures of my kids, my gratitude pictures, because that's foundational. But then I've got pictures of the houses that I wanted. Now, what's crazy is this picture on the top looks just like that $8 million, 10,000 square foot testament to my ego that I built on the beach, okay? And what's crazy is these bottom pictures look just like the compound that I live in now. I live in a compound now that's 6 buildings, and you can see the view behind me. That's my backyard. I've got a beautiful guest house on the water, giant main house. I've got a media center, an entertainment center, giant exercise facility. And I lost that big house on the beach that I was telling you about. And because God's got a sense of humor, I can see it out my backyard. It's right across the bay. But the point is, pictures work. So get pictures, put them around you of the goals and the things that you want. Trust me. I don't care if you're analytical and you're going, oh man, this is too foofy. You are making a mistake, because it freaking works. If you looked around me now, you'd see pictures of the things that matter to me now. Mm-hmm. And So very, very important. Anyway, drop the mic.
No, that was great. I love that. And Rod, I can't tell you how it's fascinating, because I've experienced it too at such a young age. And I think it's, once you experience it once, it's like a feedback loop that, oh, okay, I can actually create what I want.
Anything,
like
anything, you can create it. If whatever your mind can visualize with clarity, will come into creation. It's just the way the universe works. Or God, or whatever you believe. That's how it works. I mean, truly, you can do anything. I was telling my son this today. Anything at all. Let me give one little piece, though. I don't want to forget about this. It's kind of important as it relates to goals. Mm-hmm. So I told you about that house I built on the beach. I spent 20 years planning that and thinking about it. And I mean, this house is magnificent. Okay. 3 stories, giant spiral staircase up through the middle of the house. The pool was in magazines because there was a giant waterfall out of the pool, second floor balcony into the pool, and these beautiful trees that I spent tens of thousands of dollars on that went out and curved out over the pool. And I mean, to give you an idea, the fish tanks that were around the spiral staircase on the second floor were almost $200,000. So that gives you an idea of this house. Okay. It was magnificent. And I really call it a testament to my ego, because that's really what it was. I had to prove to the world I was good enough. And I did it by building this giant house. I worked 20 years to do this. So 2 months after I built it, and this is the message I want to share with your listeners. 2 months after I built it, I'm floating in the pool. It's changing colors at night. I've got fiber optic lighting. It's warm. The waterfall's coming in, and you had to walk through the waterfall to get in the pool. It's magnificent. I'm looking up at this giant home, this testament to my ego, and I got depressed. And this is 2 months after I built it. I'm like, what the hell? And I mean, I was really bummed. I mean, this is not like just a passing thing. I mean, I really got depressed. And I'm like, what the heck's going on here? I just achieved success by, 100x societal standards, and I'm feeling bad. And there were 2 things going on that I want to share with your listeners, really important.
Please.
Because they relate to goals. The first one is, don't achieve a big goal without having other goals lined up behind it. Because like the good book says, without a vision, the people perish. You have to have a vision for the future. And I didn't have a compelling vision for the future. So when I look back on it, I realized there were 2 things going on. The second thing that was going on that's even more important is, excuse me, I'd been totally focused on myself. Okay, it was all about Rod. Show the world I'm good enough. Prove the world I matter. All of that. And so I went and saw Tony Robbins that year, and I read one of his books, and that got me to one of his boot camps and just blew me away. And by the way, if you have an opportunity to see him, just do it. I spent the next 20 years following him around the planet just because this, incredible technologies that he teaches. But what I discovered at that first boot camp was that he feeds families for the holidays.
Yes,
that's so cool.
Your Tiny Hands Foundation, right?
Yeah, well, that's what I want to talk about for a second, because your listeners need to know this. Success without this piece isn't success.
Yes.
So I was successful, but I was unfulfilled. Okay, so I came home and I'm like, you know what? Let's feed 5 families. My brother and I, we decided, we called a church, said, who really needs help? So we got a list of 5 names. Third family changed my life. I went up to this house, and it was like a crap hole, like the first house I ever bought back in Denver. It was called a shotgun, where you walk through the living room, through the bedroom to get to the kitchen, which had the bathroom off of it. So it's a 1 bedroom, but not really, because you got to walk through the bedroom to get to the kitchen. It's called a shotgun. And there's a lady there with 5 kids. Well, we bought big boxes of food. It was for Thanksgiving. And frozen turkeys and roasting pans and everything she'd need to have a Thanksgiving meal. We got toys. We found out if they had kids, and we got toys for the kids and big box and frozen turkey and all that. We put that on the porch, knock on the door. She sees it. She starts crying. Her kids come out. Some of them start crying. I start crying, and I'm hooked. And I'm blessed to say, Ruben, we have now fed and impacted over 70,000 children in the last 20 years since that first year. And I've done, probably close to 20,000 backpacks filled with school supplies since then. I've done, probably 20,000 teddy bears to the local police departments for their officers to keep in their vehicles if they encounter a child that's been traumatized. And I'm going to tell you guys, those of you listening, success without giving back in some fashion is not success. I've interviewed people on my show, billionaires, mega millionaires, that I can tell are like I was back then. Totally focused on themselves, narcissistic, not giving back. Yeah, because I recognize it because it was me. That's not success.
Yeah.
Success happens when you realize that we were put on this earth to contribute. You don't have to do anything as grandiose as I did. Find a family and help a family, help an elderly person, help a child, help an animal, help the environment, whatever. Pick something that juices you, and do not wait until you achieve your level of success, because this is a piece of achieving that success.
Yeah.
You want to be successful faster? Give back now. I'm just telling you. So
I love that.
I'll get off my soapbox, but
no.
It's very important.
It's so good that you touched on that, because I think we often even forget that in our day to day, that's what it's about at the end of the day, right? How many lives are you impacting from even as an entrepreneur? Are you doing something to better the world? Are you actually adding value? It's the same thing in the business that we're in. Are you adding value to your existing?
If you want to be a success, add more value. Bottom line, the people that add the most value are the most successful on the planet. Yeah,
and it's there's a quote that I love. It's not about you, it's about who loses if you don't win. And I
like that. I like that. I like that a lot.
Gives a bigger.
Yeah, it makes it much more important.
Yeah.
And ties into what we were talking about. Who's watching you? There's somebody watching you all the time, looking up to you as their hero. Are you showing up the way you need to show up?
Yeah.
Ties into that. I love it.
That's fantastic.
Now let me say this.
Mm-hmm.
Again, it doesn't have to be big. Just do something. Do something to give back, and that gives your life a richness and a meaning that you can't get from money. I mean, you get it. You'll see when you do something and you tear up because it impacts you like that. You found the right thing.
Wow, that's beautiful, Rod. That's beautiful, Rod. I'm gonna switch to the core rapid fire questions, which I think you'll probably appreciate, because I hear a lot of gems, and I'm glad you mentioned a few of the folks you mentioned. But what is your favorite book that's out there? And
I give away so many books. Let me just rattle through some that I give my but the reason I give away so many books is my love language is gifts. Now, there's a great book called The 5 Languages of Love. So if you're in a relationship, like you have a spouse or a significant other or a child or a mother or a father, meaning everybody should go read that book. Okay. So there's number one. Another one is The Slight Edge. Talks about all the little decisions you make every day that make the trajectory of your life either go up or go down. The Slight Edge. Another one is Turning Pro. You want to, when you're ready to get serious, stop being an amateur and become a professional. I could keep going, but I gave away tons of books. Yeah.
No, I love I've read Slight Edge. I haven't. 5 Languages of Love, I'm sleeping on. I've heard of that for a long time.
Oh, you need to get it. You need to get it, buddy. It's a very, very important book.
It kind of reminds me, but it might sound like, what's the Crucial Conversations? Have you ever heard that?
No, I haven't.
That's a really good one as well with any family. But anyways, we'll definitely make sure we include that in the show notes. I love what you said about personal development. I love what you said about finding your inner truth. What is the best habit that you think serves you every day?
Well, I'm going to give you a couple, okay? But I will tell you that operating from gratitude is the most important, because you cannot be fearful and grateful at the same time. You can't be angry and grateful at the same time. You can't be stressed and grateful at the same time. Use gratitude. When you operate from that place, the world looks different. Your relationships look different. Your life looks different, and you're much, much happier. And you're going to get further faster because it's such a positive energy. So that's number one.
I love that one. Thank you.
Now, I will tell you, I do a little morning ritual that I'll share with your listeners. Takes literally a minute. And that is, I get up and I do gratitude for the things that I have in my life. My amazing, beautiful wife, my children, my coaching students, my foundation, everything that matters. I just do gratitude. I close my eyes. I sometimes do it in bed. Sometimes I do it in my chair behind me. So I start there. Then I do gratitude for the things that I want as if I already have them. And I will sometimes get emotional being grateful for things I don't even have yet. Okay.
Oh, wow.
I know I lost some of the analytical ones on this, Ruben, but I'm here to tell you it's to your peril, my friends.
Yes.
Okay. Because this stuff freaking works. When you're grateful for something as if you have it, it comes into your life much, much faster. Okay?
I have not heard of that one. I really like that. You're not just
emotion, gratitude.
Wow.
And you incorporate that into your visualization to manifest what you want. It happens so much faster. So that's the second thing I do. And then lastly, I just say it's going to be a fantastic day in my head. And it usually is.
Wow.
So that's my morning ritual.
I like that. I like that a lot. Best tool that gets you through the day, you think?
Oh boy, I'll tell you, we've really fallen in love with a couple. We use Slack for our inter-office communication. We love that.
Me
We
too.
use Asana for our project management. We also use Asana to track the deals that we're reviewing so that we can stage them through the different cycles of our deals. We just transitioned over to HubSpot, been hearing really good stuff about it. So those are the software solutions that we use. Again, I'm a paper person, so I use Outlook as well, but I love my planner, but yeah.
Wow, great. I love Slack as well. I think that's a great way to communicate, but that's fantastic. We'll shift back to real estate real quick. 300 unit apartment building or 3 apartments of 100 units. Which one do you pick?
Oh, the 300 unit for sure.
Interesting.
Oh, yeah. For all kinds of reasons.
I always get different answers for this one.
No, for sure. For sure, because the economies of scale are so much better. And you get one 300 door unit and you're going to go larger. And, I mean, if I've got someone coming to my mastermind, in November, Albert Barris has got 17,000 doors.
Oh my God.
And so, it's all about getting big. There's always another level, there are people that are big, there are people that are bigger than him, Sam Zell, Warren Buffett. But the point is, there's always another level. And I think you go bigger as big as, as quickly as you can.
Interesting. Scalability. Got it. Self-manage or outsource?
Definitely third-party management for us until we get to a certain scale. Mm-hmm. Once you get to thousands of doors and you can economically hire someone to do what your management company is doing for you and bring it in-house. I'm a bit of a control freak. If you listen to my podcast, you'll think I only self-manage, but that's not the truth. When you're in buy mode, you should not be screwing around with toilets. You should be focused on buying and finding deals, letting someone else deal with that. Until, again, you reach some level of scale or you stop buying, and then it may make sense to bring it in-house.
I like that. So I'm going to interrupt my rapid fire question because you brought up a good point. Buy mode. So if I'm building my team, I'm building my skill, what do you think is that one, and I know I like, obviously it takes multiple skills to build, but what is the one thing I should get really, really good at as a real estate investor to double
whatever your strengths are? You should focus and build your strengths, and you should hire, align, or partner for your weaknesses.
Beautiful.
If you are outgoing, find somebody that's analytical. Like I've got Robert. Robert's my partner. He's a CPA. Mm-hmm. He's raised a couple $100 million in multifamily deals. He's a freaking rock star with numbers. And if you're the rock star with numbers and analytical, then find somebody that's outgoing and partner with them or align with them or hire them. And you will get much further, much faster. If you try to build your weaknesses to accomplish what you want, you will not get nearly as far. Focus on your strengths, build those, and do what I said with your weaknesses.
Rod, I love that answer. Thank you. If you had one superpower in real estate or in business, what would it be?
Well, I will tell you that to be successful in anything, you have to be able to influence people. And to influence people, you have to be passionate. And to be passionate and inspire people, you have to love what it is you do. So if you don't love real estate, you either learn to love it by associating pleasure with it, or go do something else, for God's sakes. Life is too freaking short. Go find what you love, because if you love what you do, you'll be passionate about it. You'll be knowledgeable about it. You'll be able to inspire and influence people, which is what's required to build a business, to raise money, to put it to inspire a team to work together. So that would be what I would focus on, is making sure I'm doing something I'm passionate about.
It's so interesting you said that. I heard someone say once that I don't need to believe in you. I need to believe that you believe in yourself. And I was like, oh God,
you need to believe in yourself as well. You need to believe in yourself as well.
Yeah. And I think that quote comes from the fact that you need to have that influence to be confident enough to influence others that will believe in you. And I think it's very interesting. If you could describe a successful, and I use the word syndicator, which I know my audience has done some exposure to.
You're fading a little bit, buddy. Can you re-ask the question?
Yeah. So if you could describe a successful syndicator in one word, and I know my audience knows that syndication is a way that we accumulate capital to acquire apartments. What do you think that because that entails so many different skill sets or things to do.
One word.
One word. Yeah.
Integrity.
Okay.
Yeah,
excellent.
For sure.
Excellent.
Somebody that cares as much about your money as much as they do their own. I mean, we syndicate deals. We get phenomenal deals because I've got students sending them to me from all over the country. We didn't dig into any of those. I've got certainly huge success stories there to talk about. But the point is, they've got to have integrity. And in fact, we just sent our coaching students a list of questions that you should ask any syndicator before you give them your money.
Excellent.
And because you need to know who they are, and it's more about them than it is the deal, believe it or not. I'd rather have a shaky deal and an incredible operator than an incredible operator. You know what I'm trying to say.
No, I know exactly.
I might have got them reversed, but then an incredible deal and a shaky operator. Yeah,
right. All about the operator. Excellent. So I guess the last part is like being in the lab. I think being in the lab is a quick deep dive. What is, I guess, a lesson or a misconception, I should say, that you think is out there that we should take note of? And again, I didn't get a chance to dive deep into all the businesses that you started, but I think it's the same. It's rooted from the individual. And I think what's a good thing that we talked about limiting beliefs. I know we hit the nail on the head on that.
You're asking me about a misconception?
Yeah. What is it
in the marketplace? Well, let me tell you about the marketplace. We are in irrational exuberance right now. Okay. There are deals happening that shouldn't be happening. Yeah. I recognize it. It's 2006 all over again. And so, to think that we're not going to have a contraction in the very near future is naive, frankly. We are definitely going to. I mean, pray to God it's not like 2008, but with crisis comes opportunity. Okay, so keep that in mind. Don't be afraid of it. Be aware of it, and fundamentals are just so important right now. Making sure that deals are stress tested. Like we won't do a deal if it won't survive at 25% vacant day one. Wow. If it won't break even, we won't do a deal if it's not won't break even in 5 years at 35% vacant. We won't do it. And we've got huge operating reserves on our properties, rainy day funds. We've got $1 million on one property. We just did $500,000 on another one. Just in case, because I'm very, very conservative, and I don't ever want to have a situation like I had in 2008. So again, I'm more conservative than most. Let me say that. But if you were asking me, and back to your question, as far as this market is, we're in irrational exuberance, and if you're a passive investor, really check out your operator for sure. Make sure they know what the hell they're doing, because again, there are deals happening right now that we go into last and final on, and we're like, we didn't get it. Okay, fine. Somebody paid more than that, and that they paid that, and we're like, oh my God. Yeah. I mean, what were they thinking? Yeah. Either they have no cost of funds, or their investors are going to be really disappointed. So,
in other words, preparation, it sounds like. So one last question that I want to ask you, and I actually took this one from you, and that's what, again, to put things all together, that's what the experiment is all about, is being able to connect with others, learning from them. I really love this question when I heard you ask it the other day in one of your episodes. It's, what question did you wish I had asked you that I didn't ask?
Wow, you stumped me, buddy. Let me think about that for a second. How somebody could get started in this business and ramp it quickly.
Okay. So what would be your answer to that?
Well, my answer would be to educate yourself. Dabblers in anything get crushed. So don't dabble. If you're going to learn this business, learn it. Listen to my podcast. Listen to Ruben's podcast. There's tons of great content out there. Come see me at one of my 3-day events. I'm going to be in Los Angeles here in 3 months, and it's just me for 3 days teaching you it. I don't, unlike other people, I don't bring in all kinds of speakers to sell you stuff. It's just me, and people rave about them. So but start there and to educate yourself, but not to the point of perfection. Educate yourself so you don't make a mistake, but then take massive action. Go make it happen. You deserve it. Your family deserves it. Your future deserves it.
Excellent. I love that you said that. Our OPT meetup that we were talked about offline earlier, the mastermind that I hold is about other people's time. And the reason why it's similar to OPM, the reason we say that, we all have either expertise or skill set, which I love that you talked about earlier. And if we can collectively not either not only hone in and double down on that, but then collectively bring it together. And one might be education, one might be somebody has capital, or one might be analytical. I love that idea, and that's really I love how you tied that in together there, Rod. So one thing I always like to say is, you started talking about it already. It's, where can we find more about you?
Yeah, on my boot camp, go to rodinlosangeles.com.
Yeah.
And my website has tons of free content, rodkhleif.com. I've got a multifamily workbook there that's 67 pages. It's a due diligence checklist. It is the most comprehensive checklist you're going to find in the industry. So it's free. So the price is right. So it's a Rod Khleif, KHLEIF.com.
Mm-hmm.
Check out my podcast. If you go on iTunes and you put in real estate, I come up number 1 or 2 every day. You can definitely, I think you'll get value there, because I don't just interview an expert every week. I do a clip called Own Your Power, about truly owning your power. And we talk about mindset and motivation. But I appreciate you having me on, my friend.
Of course, in which we got into today. And I really think that's very valuable for anyone who's listening. I can't thank you enough for joining. One last thing I always say is if I can offer value in any way, if I run into someone right now, who would that person be? What organization would it be where I need to be like, hey, you know what, Rod Khleif, you guys.
Anybody that wants to own multifamily, send them my way. Send them to my boot camp. My tickets are as low as like $200 right now, and it's a no-brainer. And because I love it. I don't do it for the money. I do it because I love it. I mean, we bought 1,000 doors in the last 6 months. I don't need the coaching revenue and the event revenue. It's about adding value and loving what you do. I've got hundreds of thank you cards behind me on the wall that I've received, literally hundreds, probably 300-400. I get one every single day, more than one. I usually get 2 or 3 a day, either through a private message, an email, or a handwritten card. It's my greatest gift in life. So, if you're interested in this business, come see me. If you're interested in something else, then learn it as best you can and take massive action.
Excellent. Well, here's a big thank you from all of us, and whether we can send you a thank you card or not, I can't tell you how much I appreciate you coming on the show here and sharing a lot of wisdom, value, and actionable things to actually do with that knowledge that you shared with us in wisdom. That's really what it's about. That's why I do the real estate experiment.
I appreciate you having me on, my friend, and I'm out of time. I've got a call. I was supposed to be on 5 minutes ago, but thank you, buddy. And let me know if I can help you in any way as well.
Thank you, Rod. We'll do.
All
We'll
right.
stay in touch, my friend.
Take care, buddy. See you.
Bye-bye.